What can I say about this Barthelemy Easter fight now? It was very lackluster. Like, I was wishing for the end watching that fight. The announcers, they were giving the crowd a lot of credit for keeping up the enthusiasm for the fight throughout the fight, you know. Early Easter, I'd say he had success keeping the fight at range, fighting out of ring center behind his jab. Barthelemy, throughout the fight, he didn't really have the range to put Easter in serious danger, you know. There was a lot of shadow boxing going on both sides though, you know. I think around the 4th or 5th round, Barthelemy, he switched to southpaw. Where went the announcers talking about Barthelemy fighting orthodox? Especially since he wasn't really having success doing that. But he turned southpaw and started becoming the aggressor. You know, the supposed aggressor. Bunch of fencing was going on, man. Both fighters weren't engaging. Easter, man, he seemed shook just by Barthelemy switching. Barthelemy does a bunch of hip movements, wiggles, feints, you know. People could mistake it for showboating. I don't think it is, really. I think that's Barthelemy's style. And actually a style that I kinda liked against the right opponent. Watch Rances Barthelemy against Antonio DeMarco. I believe you can watch it for free on the PBC site. There's a good example of Rances Barthelemy actually fighting rather crowd-pleasing and his supposed showboating actually being effective, you know. His southpaw style was successful in that he was pushing Easter back. And Easter, he wasn't at all using his jab. He stopped using his jab. Yeah, he seemed choked, man. That look, it gave him trouble, you know. Talked about it actually post-fight, you know, that bullshit Rances was doing, man, that had him kind of confused, you know what I mean? Couldn't get a rhythm on him. He really didn't try to get the rhythm, man. He was just so hesitant. In my mind, it was Robert Easter's fight to win, you know? Rances was winning rounds because Robert Easter wasn't doing anything. Because most of the time when Rances is pushing back Easter, he's throwing like bolo shots, supposed counter punches, you know, Rances that is, on the slightest half commitment of Easter, you know what I mean? There's a counter shot like all exaggerated, you know? It's for the judges. But it wasn't ever really like connecting. Most of the time Easter like committed, he did have success, and I believe like in the 8th round or something, or 7th, he came out and started like pushing Barthelemy back to the ropes and working him over, man, to head and body. That's something actually Easter has been criticized for in the past, that he gives up his size, his height, his natural advantages and fights on the inside, man. It is thought of as a mistake, a tall fighter fighting on the inside, but if you have the ability to fight on the inside, man, and Robert Easter, he's a Mike Stafford trained fighter, you know, like a Adrian Broner, man. They're from the same gym, I guess, or whatever, you know. About Billions, Bandcamp and all that. Both of them, man, they throw these like pity pat punches, man, on the heavy bag, you know. And I believe that it's designed for inside fighting. And one thing you can say for Robert Easter, man, for his size, he's a very good inside fighter, or like a decent inside fighter, you know. Showed it in the Richard Comey fight also. At times he gets a little bit too involved, you know. Gets a little bit taken advantage of, especially by shorter fighters, man. But here in Rances Barthelemy, he didn't have a guy in front of him that fights like that, really. Although he's also not like a classic Cuban southpaw or boxer, you know what I mean, slick fighter, as we have come to know. History has shown us, you know, Joel Casamayor, Erislandi Lara, these type of fighters, Guillermo Rigondeaux, maybe a little bit too defense first, more spoiler than slickster, you know. I think Barthelemy, man, he's a different type of dude, you know. He's aggressive in his slickness, man, and he's a switch hitter. He'll actually try to put some hurt on you, you know. He can be taken advantage of on the inside. That's actually what I've seen in the fight against Denis Shafikov. Also a very entertaining fight by Barthelemy, you know. Close fight that he won. Early he actually dominated and then got involved into more of an inside fighting game. And Shafikov got the best of him, you know. No, Easter, man. Easter, he got shit mixed up a little bit. But that's what he did in the 7th round, man. He attacked the guy. And he might have even won just on the little flurry early that he attempted. Not everything landed. He landed a couple of left hooks to the body. And Barthelemy, he doesn't fight on the inside. He was just shelling up, kind of making faces, I guess, you know. That you didn't hurt me type of shit, you know. But he was very muted in that moment, so it would be wise, I guess, to go back to that, you know, if you're Easter, even if you have maybe the reach advantage or whatever. Obviously, you have advantages on the inside. Still, regardless, I've seen like Paul Williams outbox Winky Wright, an older Winky Wright, granted, but still, you know, outbox him on the outside and then the spots he had on the inside, still take advantage of that, you know, and get the better of the smaller, shorter, supposedly better inside fighter. Winky was getting hit with those long Paul Williams uppercuts, man. Like output, work rate, inside fighting, that's something that gets to Barthelemy. Easter didn't watch the tape, I guess, you know. And also what I thought to myself, man, a lot of why I thought maybe also Barthelemy's performance kind of lacked, you know what I mean, in that final umph, you know, when he's like pushing Easter back and throwing shots to the body and shit, or straights to the body and bolos or whatever. Why isn't he reaching him completely, you know? Why is that? Because he's coming off 2 hard fights, long layoff, in which he kind of got found out, you know, in which his streak got broken after a bunch of tough fights. Barthelemy, man, he didn't have an easy... Like the first time I've seen Barthelemy actually was against Jnr.Vs, common opponent of Easter and Barthelemy actually. Both stopped him, and also Barthelemy in the rematch went the distance and beat him. Also Barthelemy, he has been at 140, I believe, and that was his first fight at 135 in the last 3 years or something. I don't know, I heard something like that. Yeah, man. So, and he kinda looked outgunned at 140, but at 135, also Barthelemy is an older fighter, you know what I mean? Mid-30s, to go back down in weight, how's that gonna affect your performance? He looked a little hesitant. Like both fighters look very hesitant, man. Robert Easter is coming off his first loss against Mikey Garcia. I was thinking like Robert Easter is gonna show a good performance against Rances Barthelemy, and actually improve. I liked his demeanor after that Mikey Garcia fight, giving full credit, and it seemed like he's the type of dude that would learn from a performance like that, you know, not like Adrian Broner. But he seemed very, I don't know, something was off, you know? He wasn't pulling the trigger, it seemed. Maybe it takes a couple of fights to get back into a winning mindset, but then again, Robert Easter, man, has been looking kind of iffy for years now, you know, since winning his title, really. He had a tough fight against Shafikov, Cruz, also Fortuna. I think I even scored that fight for Fortuna, maybe, you know. Close fight though. And has been also getting touched, so both fighters, man, they haven't had the easiest time like in the last couple of years. I think Rances might be a little past his prime, and Robert Easter, I think he should go up to 140, man. When he's fighting, he looks still dehydrated, like all sunken in, cheekbones showing. Like after the fight, the post-fight interview, the guy looks like he's about to go on the scale. Both fighters won a rematch, man, and the fight got a draw. I couldn't tell you who deserved to win. Maybe, I don't know, like I say, man, Rances, it was such a spoiler. It was such a feint of a performance, you know? It was just a feint of a performance, man, for both fighters. Like from Rances' perspective, man, I can't, I don't know, man. I want to give him the tactical advantage somehow. He was more so doing what he would like to do than what Robert Easter was initiating, you know what I mean? Robert Easter was mostly, I don't know what he was doing, you know? He was doing that Mikey Garcia thing, man, at the end of the round where you raise your fist up, you know, like banking the round. Got that one, that type of shit. Trying to, I don't know, influence the judges, I guess. It was Robert Easter's fight to win, or Robert Easter's fight to lose. That's more like it, you know? And Rances Barthelemy, man, he was put into position to win the fight, actually. That's how I felt, you know? I didn't score it, they scored it, I draw the judges. Both fighters were complaining, kinda, you know? Rances a little bit more, so I guess my feeling is kind of right, you know. Robert Easter wasn't complaining. He's not the type, it seems like, and sometimes like we tend to or maybe I'm guilty of that, you know, prejudging Robert Easter like personality just by the people he hangs around with. I learned my lesson post that Mike Garcia fight, and he's still a very humble guy, you know, the way he's taking this defeat. Not defeat, I'm sorry. This draw, or this non-performance, you know, it seems like a step back, or maybe it's just stagnating. I don't know what it is really. I definitely know one thing: I don't want to see this shit again. I don't want to see a rematch, you know. Definitely not. That was a hard fight to finish, man. And I was actually falling asleep early in that shit, you know. And it was in the middle of the day, so I have no excuse, man. I was catching a replay of that shit, you know. And I was falling asleep like by around 3 or something. And then I kind of like woke myself up, you know. Got myself together. You know, get a hold of yourself type of thing. Just as what's his name? Barthelemy was switching southpaw. And then it got interesting. Right now it didn't. It stayed weird. A weird fight. It was weird when Easter was winning and when Barthelemy was like switching and I guess winning. It stayed weird, man. This whole weekend, man. Bunch of weird fights, man. I don't see a lot of fights like really panning out as great fights recently. You know? A lot of duds. That's my thoughts on this fight, man. Alright? I think Easter, he should move up, man. Move up in weight, dude. He's got the size. Maybe, I don't know, maybe he thinks he doesn't have the strength. I could see that if Javier Fortuna is bullying you on the inside, you know what I mean? That shit won't work out. But I like Easter actually fighting on the outside, you know, keep it long. And I also like that he has that aspect of inside fighting to his game, you know. I think it's just he gets his game plan fucked up a little bit, you know. You should have known, man. Rances, he doesn't like it to the body, he doesn't like it on the inside. He needs a little bit of time to set his shit up, you know. All that razzle dazzle, man, that serves a purpose. And what's his name? Yeah, man. Easter, he got that shit fucked up, but I still kind of think he's a good fighter, though. And I actually also like Rances, man. I think he's past his prime, though. That wasn't the same Rances Barthelemy that fought DeMarco, Shafikov, these type of dudes a couple of years ago. Shame, actually, you know. Although, you know, he had pretty good matchups. Can't be too mad at it, you know. But I would have liked to see actually Rances Barthelemy. I had a video like years ago. I wanted to see Barthelemy versus Mike Garcia when he comes back. When Garcia was still in litigation. Whatever. What's next for these dudes? Hopefully not a rematch. That's all I know. Thanks for listening. Peace out.